Hello, everyone. This is Mike from Dimensional Walking. And today we're going to do a segment on, or an episode on, near death, out of body, your light entity. Okay? So, during my many years as a logistics manager, I ran various facilities around the country, and I would occasionally get a vendor that would come in, like a transportation provider or a vending machine provider, or let's see, what else could it be? A rack provider, pallet provider. It goes on and on and on. So every day there's usually somebody knocking on our door looking to do business with us. So on this particular day, let me tell you about another one that I had done in the past, video. Actually, it's called Lady in Black. And if you want to check this one out, this is really a super fascinating one. If you go to one of our first videos that we have on prophecy, that I did on prophecy, I will tell the story about Lady in Black. I think you're going to find it really fascinating. It knocked my socks off, that experience with the Lady in Black. So, so this particular guy came in, and he was from a trucking company. Actually, Lady in Black was also from a trucking company, so I don't really know what the deal is with these trucking companies, but they have some pretty interesting people that work for them. Anyways, Peter comes in, and he didn't know me at all. This is the first time he ever came in. It was a cold call, basically, and I normally don't take those, but every so often I do. And so he comes in and sits down, and almost immediately started telling me about him being really ill. I mean, he had been ill in the past. I shouldn't say he wasn't ill at that minute, but he was ill in the past. He had leukemia, and he started telling me a couple of really interesting stories that I'm going to relate to you. So, both of these experiences were near-death experiences that happened in the hospital. The first experience he had was that he had been diagnosed with leukemia, and so he was in the hospital in surgery, because they were doing exploratory surgery on his stomach and trying to determine why he was having this very excruciating pain, prolonged excruciating pain. And so he was laying on the table there, the surgical table, and he noticed that the people, the surgeon and the people around him were working on him. They were actually cutting him. And of course he was completely awake, and he really was very confused. He didn't understand what was going on. And suddenly he started to raise off the table, and he rose off the table, and he could look back, and he saw a duplicate body, and he could watch the whole surgery. So he continued to raise off the table, and he rose up, and he ended up getting close to the ceiling. All of a sudden, he saw this column of bright light. And at the end of the column, there was two slits that were extremely bright. And he thought they sort of reminded him that they were like eyes. That this entity or light entity is, which eventually he does describe, it describes itself as a light entity, his light entity. And with that said, there's an assumption that we all have these light entities around us, or a part of us, I guess we'll say. Okay. So anyways, Peter called this thing, like I told you, light entity, and this entity telepathed with him, and asked Peter if he had a choice. Does he want to stay here on Earth, or move on to the beyond? Okay? He said, would you like to move on to the beyond? Peter said, even though the light entities, my light entities' presence felt wonderful and very calming, Peter decided to stay on, he called it Happy Earth. So he went back into his body, and everything went well. The surgery went well, and he recovered nicely. Okay? So 3 years later, Peter was back in the hospital, okay, with complications from his leukemia. He was starting to have blood clots around his heart. And so again, he had a near-death experience, again on the operating table, okay? And this time his light entity welcomed him to the place that he calls the beyond. But Peter says, no, not now, please. He told his light entity that he had a small child now, and his wife was pregnant with a second child, and he needed some more time. So the light entity says, this could be your last opportunity, so make the most of it, or make the best of it, okay? So again, he gets through the surgery. Oh, I made a comment here on this, and the comment was, I guess you can do some negotiating with your light entity when it comes to moving, either staying or going to the beyond, okay? So, that's an interesting observation, I guess, on my part, and I think Peter also mentioned it too, and we both laughed about it. So again, he got through the surgery, returns to his family. But after that day, having that experience with his light entity, he ended up having a longing to go back to the beyond, or go to the beyond. Now, he was right either at the doorstep or kind of peeked his head into the beyond and took a real good look at it when he was talking to his light entity. Peter, leukemia went into total remission, and which was quite a surprise to the doctors. And then Peter told me a little bit of a sidebar. Peter said that his brother, who was an MD, worked for the CIA in Frederick, Maryland, at Fort Detrick Cancer Research Center. Now, Fort Detrick is you can look it up. It's quite famous. A lot of weird stuff has happened there. And some people even credit it for the Spanish flu, where it started. And of course, that's a big conspiracy. I don't really know anything too much about that, but I had heard about that. Peter said that he didn't know if that had anything to do with what was going on with him, but he was always a little suspicious of his brother and his work with the CIA. So, anyways, Peter also had periodically would see a small ball of floating light around his house, and it was calming and peaceful. He just wanted to mention that to me. I have to mention, and as my own personal sidebar, my daughter, one of my daughters, has also had a small ball of light. And one of the most interesting encounters she had with is after she was very, very ill, or when she was very ill, laying in bed with a fever, etc. This ball of light came to her and started scanning her. And I guess it was just checking up on her, as best we could tell. But I don't know if she's ever had it again, but that first time she did have was pretty profound. So the last thing the light entity had told Peter was this: truth is the most important concept in the universe, which I thought was pretty incredible. And actually, one of the things is, because of that thing, that the last thing that Peter had told me, I actually was inspired to do Truth Seeker Forum, the website, and Rainbow and I were inspired to do Dimensional Walking, a Paranormal Journey. At least I was inspired to do that. Anyways, that's it. So if you have any of your own near-death experiences, or your light entity has talked to you or communicated with you, or out-of-body experiences, please let us know. You can get a hold of us in a private email, dimensionalwalking@gmail.com, and share that, or you can share comments here. We need your subscriptions. We need you to put on your notification. We need comments from you here. So with all that said, happy trails to you until we meet again. Thank you and goodbye.